Jinonda mawad yo nagamo win. Wene. Kaji mama ka denda mawad dongosa ji shibag minawa ki pin de geisha mawad. Mi kia guys chigewad. Mishima gaji maji nimi wad. Hank. Minawa we wene gaji ban nimi wad. Gege to go ge gaji pi bagi wad. Pichi min wenda mawad gaji nimi kamawad. You osa bin de geishama wini nagamon. Minawa wenda Boujou. Gaji kanawaba mad be bejik bin de ge de ji winda mawad. Gego inabi kegon, gema gekama misko shkinje gwem. Angwamizig, minawa, wene, bawina mok, kinagegu, gege to go ge, weni sana, waji bin de geshamo yeg, minawa, weni go da shamago yeg. Oh, gichi kendamogun gosa, aya agji shiba, gimin wendamug, any guk, we quadji tuad gaji nimi wad, rack. Bejik, Wayne Boujou Gimaman, Onoji Shiban, Minawa Gaji Mamad, Ogi Kinjigwenad Nosa Ji Shiban, Bejik, Nij, Bejik, Chinibua Ji Shiban, Oginasan. Minawa gimin wendam apiji awena Boujou ki pindigeshimawag ingo dwak nijwak chinibwa ji shibag wena Boujou bi bagi madapane gego inabi kegon gego gika mamisko shkinji gwem mi kia gaiji nagamot tawad minawa ji shibag Eshkam nibwa kipata ninawag kipashkinawag gaiji nimi itiwa dema nimi itiwa gamigung Bebeje kwena Boujou ji nasad kiabigo nagamot tawad Nishime go gwen gego inabi kegon gikama misko shkinji gwem Yahweh, Geabigo Nisad Chi Nibo no Ji Shiban, Wataya, Namunj, Minik, Guayaka Nisagwen, Binish Bejik. Gaiji Bakish Kinjigwed, Minawa Kanawabamad, Onosa Ji Shiban Chi Niboa, Nibedebinid, Minawa Gaiji Nisindwa, Miyamagaji B Bagid, Gawin, Jiwinda Magid. Jishibidog, Ginisigonan, Wa Hen Boujou, Angwamizig, a Paiwayok, Wayweeb, Ginanizanichigame. Miu Gaiji Chigawad, Buzzigwad, Minawa Gaiji Majawad, Wayne Boujou, Ginishkad is it. Mishima, Gaiji Maji Batuda, Wayne Boujou, Miao Bejik, Oki Tangish Kawan, Kwaya Kibasa, O Jidang, Mishima, Gaiji Buku Bidudi Masa, Opikonan, Minawago Gima Miskoshkinjigwe. Gege to go gay, yo, Asia Chigade, Gayabi Bejik, Gaiji Tangish Kawaji, Eniguk, Minawa go Nasab, Gaiji Buku Bidudima, so Bikonang, Minawa go gay, Anima Miskushkin Jigwenid, Miga Pichi Mashkawamaga, Gaish Chigeda, Wayne Boujou. Ogi Kogwe Punigadazo, Wayne Boujou. Minawa Kanawabandang, Kinegegu Gaish Chigade. Oh, wow. Ege tingi gikinu mawagin gyo. Minawa in dayawag niboa. Ongosa jishibag gianendam. Mishuma gaji anji ayawa dongo bebakan jishibag. Miao bejik jingibiz Asian akazod. Giabigo mamiskushkinjigwe. Minawago ekonijingal mang migo nasa mamiskoshkinjigwed mi nil gaji tangashkawad minawa keabigo ba mawi al mang nandawabamad wiji jishiban minawago waji windamawad gaji chige nid wayna Boujou Miyamaji kikendamang wende nagadeg yo yo osa gikinu madi win. Minawa gayabi nibwa gegu wish chigepano. Wayne Boujou, nawajda the wind magu yeg. Me kobiagak. I'll give you a little translation of the first part of one of the more famous Wayne Boujou legends of Wayne Boujou and the Ducks. And you might have caught on to a few parts. I know some of you, like Bob Jourdain here, is a great fluent speaker. I feel kind of humbled telling legends in front of him. And many other great people here tonight and on the call. But some of you are just learning and getting started. And I think it's important to remind people it's through no fault of our own if some of us didn't get to grow up as fluent speakers. But here we are, right where we should be for Anishinaabe, having been through all the things we've been through. And it's always amazing to me to think about not what we've lost, but what we still have. We still have these kinds of stories, and we still have our language, and we have opportunities to learn about them and to become carriers of them and give them to other people. So I won't go through every word of the first part of the story because we have so many great stories to share with you tonight. But this legend is about Wayne Boujou and the ducks. Wayne Boujou being hungry, as he often was, going for a walk and coming up to a body of water and seeing the ducks out there and thinking, how can I possibly get my hands on these ducks? They look so delicious and they're nice and pleasingly plump. It was fall time at the time. So he started talking to the ducks and telling them, my little brothers, and they have different words. Nishimeag, is my little brothers. Nishimeadog when he's talking to them. Nijiwamag, my very dear friends. That's Ojibwe for BFF right there, Nijiwamag. And he's talking to them and talking them up and saying, I know you have a long flight to go, to migrate south for the winter. And I just want you to know that I'm going to have a powwow in your honor. I'm going to be cooking up some wild rice for you. And I want you to come partake of that. And of course, the ducks don't believe him right away. They say, whack, 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 and they're swimming for the middle of the lake. That's Wayne Boujou. He's going to do something terrible to us. Don't do it. And Wayne Boujou starts talking to them and he says, you can fly. You can see from a long ways away. And if you go flying a little further inland, you'll see that there's a whole dance arbor there and that there really is a powwow that's going to be happening. And there's really going to be singing and everything. So you should just check it out. Don't believe me until you see it with your own eyes. And so eventually he convinces them to do that. And there was no dance arbor, so Wayne Boujou had to run into the woods and start cutting down trees and clearing a little space. And then he started singing on his hand drum. And the words to the song are, Nishime Dogwen, those of you who must be my little brothers, Gego inabi kegon, don't peek. Your eyes will turn red. And as he starts really singing this song with all of his might, the ducks start coming in and they're dancing, shaking their tail feathers, they're quacking, and Wayne Boujou keeps singing louder and louder, and the ducks are coming in more and more by the hundreds. And then he starts to wring their necks. First one at a time, whack, 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 and he's timing it with their quacking. So nobody knows what's going on. And pretty soon he has piles of ducks and he thinks he's the smartest one ever until one of them peeked and looked back and said, my little brothers, look, it's Wayne Boujou. He's killing us. We got to get out of here. Take off. And Wayne Boujou ran up to that duck and kicked him in the hind end as hard as he could. Duck went flying. It broke his back and his eyes turned red. And that duck is the Jingibiz. We call the grebe. Sometimes they call him a hell diver. And he still goes like that. If he's on land, he's kind of got what's looked like a broken back and his eyes are red. He went running after and kicked another one who was being a tattletale. And his eyes turned red and he hollered out. And that one ended up becoming the loon. And even to this day, the loon goes flying around, crying the sad song about the death of all the ducks and a warning to all the others about being careful who you trust. It's the first part of a really kind of a saga of Wayne Boujou and the ducks. There are other parts to come. So I'm going to pause there. I'll bring you part 2 in a little bit, but I'm going to call up Bebame Benes, another storyteller, and we'll hear one of his great Adzukan. Miigwech.
Igwe chwagush. Nashke niwi goge chimaga. Jibis. No denesi kwe. Ewinewa ho'oma. Chuidu kage. Actually, all of our presentation is going to be on the big screen. So I don't really need to stand in front here. But I'm going to let these two introduce themselves first.
Ahaw. Boujou nindinaway magani duk. Nunda nancy kwe indigo. Boujou ginawa niji bimadazik. Ingi jama omanungum janenda manga kina awea. Migwishki we piajaye go manungum. Mekanak nindu dame. Tawanish gonna getting in dunjaba. And Nokia Madri, my wild health thing. Gainin ingi windamawa nujiko Adazukana Gwenjidama Ona Kingbird. We Mijiango go, we Minango go, Adazukanag. How? Me Gwich Kikinoya.
Aho Boujou, Ninzi Bean Sindigu, Mekana Gaini Nindu Dem. Iwade Dash Mesquagimi was a Gaiganing, Wenja Bawad and Dinaway Marganak. Going to Shewade Ingi Taji on Biggie Goosin. Nongum Paybama Benesingi Kagwejimeg, Omaja Bijayan, Je Widu Kagayan Gainin, Je Anigakandaman Gaja Adasu Kayan Gai. Minua Namigwich Wenda Mamayan. Migwich.
Oh, wow, Boujou. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull up a little PowerPoint here. We're actually going to switch roles, and I'm going to do the English this time, and they're going to do the Ojibwe. For those of you that are teachers, no, not quite. Not. Undo, delete, yeah, voice command. It worked. And for those of you that are teachers, my teacher told me, work with the youth and teach them. So I used to teach at the University of Minnesota, and I'm in my 7th year of retirement. And what I'm doing now is I'm sharing all my curriculum with my students and my helpers. And it's my hope that they will be on their own someday, and they can tell stories. And so that's how I pass it on. Oh, this is a little PowerPoint. The first story is a real short version of a longer one. And I think, well, we'll see where we're at after the first one, and then see if we can give you the long version. Anyways, go ahead and hit the first button. So this story is called Wayne Boujou, Itash, Nikag. And a lot of people don't know this, but Wayne Boujou, had an English name. So hit the next button. And now it's his English name, Wayne A. Boujou. Now it's his alias, his English alias. And so Tony spoke about Wayne Boujou and the ducks. This is about Wayne Boujou and the geese. And he also turned himself into a giant, and he is now laying in Thunder Bay. So I went all the way to Thunder Bay to take this next picture. There he is, the sleeping giant. And when I went to school at Lakehead University, my father, when he came to visit me, he told me you should offer us tobacco because that's the spirit of creation right there. So Wayne Boujou. All right, like I said, we're going to switch roles here. And Wayne Boujou Itashnikag is the name of the story. Next button. So, Becca, so here's the challenge. One of you has the mic. Okay, go back one. Back one. Go back one. So whoever wants to read the Ojibwe first, here's the challenge as students. Read it as it comes down. Hey, I didn't sign up for that. All right, here we go.
สวัสดีค่ะ ดิฉันนางสาววริศรา บุญเลิศ นะคะ จากโรงเรียนบ้านโคกสูง จังหวัดอุบลราชธานี ค่ะ ดิฉันจะมาเล่าเรื่อง Wayne Boujou นะคะ ซึ่งเป็น
Aberdeen, Mewisha, Guiwazanski, Neta Wigi, Nana Boujou, Ge Ejikazo, Ukoma-san, Ogi Neta Wigi, Igu Iman, Nupaming.
Great. That's pretty good. So Aberdeen, a long time ago. No, I'm going to translate it first. Yeah, go back. So Aberdeen, a long time ago. Marija, Aberdeen once. Marija, a long time ago. Guiwazanski Nitawage, he was, he grew up. He was being raised by his grandmother. They're in the woods. Now, a lot of children that are in foster care, they like this idea, you know, being raised by your grandmother or being raised by foster parents. This story is so, you can say that Wayne Boujou was a foster child, you know, that's a good correlation. And then the next one, just a color. What we did was we colored it. Okay, next one. There we go. So we're updating. All right, next slide. So most people, he is not doing number 2. Okay? What is he doing? CBs, as it comes down.
Inata mi kindize a ao nena bojo. Ogi mi kinja an enu, we jinishana ben. Anujigo gegu gijichige.
Oh, what he was doing was he was teasing. He really liked to tease. Now there's a cultural point there, right? If a Anishinaabe is teasing you, that means he likes you. If he doesn't tease you, that means he doesn't like you. So if you don't get teased, you probably are doing something wrong. So teasing was a way of identifying. So the origin of all ways that Anishinaabe people are is through our stories. So he liked to play jokes on people. There was nothing that he wouldn't do. By the way, Nana Boujou was not a saint. Okay? There was nothing that he wouldn't do. Next picture. Yeah, and there's the one that's in color. And then the next one. All right, I wonder what he's doing here in this picture. So Hope, you ready as the words come down?
Ganabaj, Ninga Baba Mose, Nandam, Megwa Baba Bimosed, Eji Wabamud, Misko Minan, Eji Maji Mawinzod, Migo Gaye, Ane Mijid.
Okay, good. I think I will take a walk, he said to himself. Now, in all the stories, that's what he always did. Ga'ajiga made, the one that's walk along the shoreline. So the internal shoreline walker. So that's a motif. So when you study stories, motifs are reoccurring themes. By the way, the words coming down from the sky, that's a motif. When a Boujou came from the Wagune Gijigung and he descended here. So we'll get another motif going on. So when you study stories, it's all about motifs. So as he was walking around, he found some berries, some red berries, miskominan. And so he decided to start picking them. And he started eating them. Okay. Now, when a Boujou is putting one berry in his mouth, I grew up with teachings that you need to have 2 or more in your mouth, or else the bear will come and visit you. So there's another indirect teaching right there. And there he is eating berries in the color, in the, So, let's see the words. Ready, Zebis?
Ogi nundawan enu nekan we pu ninid. Anin gejichige yamban, gakina je debibin angwaban. In the nandam, in nandam. Apache nun deskade, imbakade giekido.
Okay, good. So he heard geese as they were landing, and he thought to himself, what can I do to grab all of them? No, that's where he gets into trouble, right? He's not satisfied with one, but he wants to grab all of them. And then when you tell a story, here's a trick in storytelling. So we're dialect shifting right in the middle of a story. So Nondeskade is how it's said up north. Locally, it's Nimbakade. So a little storytelling, you can do dialect shifting. You can usually tell where somebody is from by the dialect that they speak or the way that they use Ojibwe. Okay, so a little grammar note there. Next picture. And there's the colored version. And the ghost in the snowstorm. Oops. And there he is. What is he doing in this picture? So no Denesi Kwe, you got the next one?
Oh. Iji bisha gibinad gawanda wigub bimikwan dinu dagen ogi onje ojetun ninga dako bidunan ozida nawiwan inendan.
Very good. So Ijib Bishigabinad is to take the bark off of trees. So what do you think Anishinaabe used a long time ago? For rope and for string. So we're by this story, we know what he uses, right? And so Kawandag would be a spruce, Weegub would be the basswood. And so there's two, you can grab rope from any kind of even roots. So Jinotagan is one way of saying rope, and the other one is Piminekwan. That's another way of saying rope. Again, dialect shifting. I will tie their feet together, he thought to himself. No, he's sitting there and he's planning how to get those ducks. Next picture. The colored version. Yep. And looks like Tony, I think. And there goes those piranhas. Initam zibis.
Imuj gaje gugid winanda da kobedu denu o zedanewan gakina ingu nekug.
Imuj, he secretly, what he did was he dove and he went and tied all of their feet together. Not just one, but all of them. Have you ever thought about that when you're out in the woods and you see the geese out on the lake? And I know every kid must have thought of it. Dive under and do this. Any plan, any idea that we had as kids, when Boujou thought about it, no? And this is him doing it. All right, the colored version. There's Tony. Itagogi ao wagish. How no denesi kwe.
Ogi sege an and you nakan ogi mushka mud ga iji bazikwa od al bejik nika nawa I ga ayad.
Me gwech. So he scared one of those geese when he came up out of the water. And the one that's in the middle is the one that flew up first. So what do you think is going to happen? Right? So, all right, next picture. So we're creating the story, the purpose of the story here. The one in the middle is the one that flew up. All right? DB, skinitam?
Mida shnongom wenje ni gane bimise da au nawa ye I gayad. Mi go gaye wenje ijinago zewad I bimise wad ingu nekug nongom.
And so that is why the one in the front goes first. And that is why they fly in that formation. That's why they look like the way that they do. So, need to have questions about stories. So the next one, next slide. There's the colored version. And so we, at the end of the story, how does, go ahead there.
Ingo dingigo ga inabed ivide ishpaming bene o jid ga ane zippo kanig.
All stories, they end like that, right? So here's the translation. So as the story ends, the main character looks up towards the sky and he sees the partridge's rectum as it begins to close up. signifying the end of the story. You guys remember watching Bugs Bunny? That's all, folks? Huh? So I was wondering if there's an icon on PowerPoint that would best illustrate that. And there is. Watch, press the next button. Yeah, you can visualize it, yep. All right, what can we learn from this story? Here's the first question. Okay, punch the next button. You should always listen to a story and you should always think about what's the purpose in that story. And 10 years sometimes will go by and you'll realize you'll get a different meaning from a story. Like when I listened to Wagush telling that story, I was just thinking about other stuff and other questions. Even though I've heard it before, you know, you can listen to a story over and over and you get different insight from it. Well, here's one of the questions. Okay, here's the first one.
Ani wenji ke kenda nga au na ka ga negan ebizod koyakwa ejawad.
How is it that the one that is in the lead, that he knows where to go? Like, how does he know which way south is? How does he know that? And Z-Beans will give us the answer.
O ganawa bendan manedu mikana magi jigong.
So he follows and he sees a road in the sky. And it's only it's animals and birds that can see Manidu Mikana that is in the sky. So that's what he sees. Okay? Now, Anishinaabe depicts this teaching inside the sweat lodge because in the sweat lodge, there are poles that go from east to west and then from north to south. And what those depict is the Manidu Mikana, the spirit roads that are in the sky. And so from a simple story like this, you can gain insight and meaning into the practices of Anishinaabe. All right, now here's the next question.
Aninda shwenje is a sewa jawanong gingu nekug yi ani de guaginenik.
So why do geese fly south in the fall? And Hope has the answer.
Anzam wasawa jibimoseng.
Because it is too far to walk. Deep spiritual knowledge there. And then the next question, Deebies?
Aninda shwenje oje tuwad vi imaish beming gi pimisewad.
And most of you can probably guess that. Why do they make a V when they fly in the sky?
Anzam zanagaje ojatuad W ima ishpaming.
It's too difficult to make a W, so they make a V. And the closing statement here, miigwech, mi-il, miigwech bizindawiyeg, miigwech bapiyeg, miigwech, you-gwech, we all gwech. All right. I think what we'll do is we'll do what Tony did. We'll do part 2 next time, and we'll let Dustin come up here. Miigwech.
Igwe, how about another round of applause for Bami Benes and his helpers? Wow. Wagosh asked me to come and tell stories for my first time. He didn't tell me I'd be following Paybomb, so big wait for that. I'll do my best. But Koe Gainin, why should me wait you in the googie? In enemy egg the big no in the goog, Nina go in, give me one in the goo, Homamida, Gamas Koaku Kog and Dunjiba, Bako and Dudame. Go dash and die with the wishkunsing, Bakaya Bashki Kang in the Jigkroma again. We don't know Kimagua and Nando Jibaimo jig. Waindam dash. Is a gashka too young to we dubbing the young Minoa, we the young Minoago gay, gaze a gashka too ad Nebo Emma, zooming the babies in the moad. The skena o aje. I just okay on gaining Koi dash we Minjamena Magua anin. Kapis in Dogwash, Koyang Gadis Ukajig, Aninga Gikino Maguyang Gainin. Win Beijig, Nimishume, but Nisosin, Aningana Bujki, Gekanamawa, Bizin the Meg. Paneogishi, Dajamana, oh, getting away Magan and on. Many do it when a Boujou, Jaigongo Nishgai, Dajamawan. Ashkea Pane, Bejagonogishi, Dajaman, Gishpenwika, we are the Zuke, the Paneogishi, Dajaman, Win the Mage, Nashkena, Yabita Nishana, Bewe are oh in a Boujou. Kinagego Nishana, Bewe and me Gaiwi Nishwabizin. Ishka Dandam, Bakere, Imakinjan, we Jayano, Gimaji do Dage. We go dogo in Gino, Wenji Nishana, Bewe, and we go win Gaye, Gaunji Nishana, Bewe. Mino Agoge, Yabita money do it. We go dogo in guys, Mama Kaji Chagawa didn't go money dog. Mr. Go Gawi now in a bush. Yeah, funny guys, you buy it, but Nisho now which again. Nishana Bewin, Bama Gay, why a cost to do it, and now but you two got me no good money do it. We go Bejago now in the shoe may bun guys, you wave is it. Windash Kabe Bejig, Jimin Jimainama go, Miko Gabo a bun. Ni tawas migizi a pani guys we don't know kimad bizindo agwi nando is okay ang gainin guys dajamad no ga gekino mago guys chigainid pani gishpin we mada is okay kawain tam pani ogishi dajamad no in a Boujou and gape on that is inid we so go gainin nain dizoyan we go chigayan why she dajamaga oh getting away magan and no in a Boujou gape on that is inid koi dashwe niganutamagean bangi. So Boujou, Miigwech, give me one. Cass Lake, right down the road. Currently live over in Wisconsin. Been working with language for quite a long time. Really appreciate you all thinking of me to be here and work on these stories with you guys. And I just talked a little bit about, I'm a young guy. I don't belong here. Should have Wagosh or Paybomb back up here, but I'll do my best. And I was thinking about coming here and storytelling and what I might talk about. And I thought about my late uncle, Sean Farlander. Some of you might know him. Hell of a storyteller, right? He always talked about Wayne Boujou the same way, and I loved it. Every time he told stories. Wayne Boujou was half human. Everything that makes us human, that's what Wayne Boujou was. Jealous, he was angry, he'd get pitiful, he'd get hungry, and act out. He'd make mistakes, right? That's what we do. To be human is to err, right? And that's what Wayne Boujou did. But he was half money dude. All the great things that the money dude could do, that's what Wayne Boujou could do. So he had this amazing cyclical relationship where he'd come in, he'd mess stuff up, and then he'd make it right. And it was great. So he didn't teach us through divinity, like you might learn in some other places, but he taught us through his humanity, which is great because we're all human. We're going to make mistakes. So it's great to see some of that in our own histories. I always love that intro. And then thought about the late Mick, Larry Smallwood. Got a friend, McGizzy over in LCO, who's a great storyteller. I love listening to him. Good friend of mine. He always talks about his teacher, Mick, and how he'd start out stories. He said Mick would always give the teaching, always start with Wayne Boujou's birth. So that's what I'm going to give it a shot, and I'll do a quick translation after that. Oh, yeah. Paybomb said you should have went first. No. Aho. Misama idog. Gyoshki kiwang. Ya amin the moye wiji dama no danasa ningujima owigi waming. Inguding dashogi kanuna no danasan gyoshki nige kwened. Minawago geogi windamuan. Danis. Way weni no dawshinwa in an ginani zain amin. Way weni giwi ayangwami in gegui jichage siwan. Oshki nige koyan gidag kendan. Gishpin inguji jayan we ozag aman. Gego wika widi na gakea nengabia no nginasama bikain. Gishpin o jichagayan gego giga iji aya. We saw him in the way. Gaji ayangwami adnyo danasan. Minawago ge ginwains gege dao oshki nige kwe gaji. Bizindo adno mamayan. Minawago ge waywinigi jichage kopani o gapi windamagod. Gishpin we pabayad. Giyayangwamasid ge kendangayad. Ningabi nung de nasa mabisig gishpin wi nama dabijazod. Ingo ding dashki babaya de wi dinupaming yan e one shin. Bisa mage kendan zagaya de nendangi mino ayad gi nama dabijazo ma. Ningabi nung nagakya gi nasa megabod. Misa ma dashkaji nama dabid. Misa ma gi da kashi de ma. Ana mai and dajizaga amawid. Mina wago gay gashi da kashta ma wow misa ma way we've gashi buzzard bonja said. Oh yagi nandam. Misa gay gashi chagayang gayang guame idao ne mama. Misa way we ganigi way batu dao. Equay we o windamod no mamayan. Gashi way bizinid. Misa ma ga pindagate windamod no mamayan. Oh yay misa ma mindamoy ga ma de demo baba maynamod no danisan gaganunat. Oh yay nandanis. Gigi wanichige gigi inagatun ki yaw nashkena aya gawia gi pindagawa gimagi yawing gawin dash anishna bay with siwag gawin dash kinwains binish pedago shinawad misama apademo da in the moy baba menama no danasan Mina wago ge wiji dandiwa demo wigi wamewang misa aya pia in the moy gashi nundwad aya an ega shinid gashi madwaiga kandini dingo jemo misa dananing no danasan way waini dashki bezindwad gi nundwad no aya ansan gashi gi kandini windama gewad Nina tam newis azikis gawin gi nina go win nina what gawin we a pitas dashkin misa magabi shimawa da in the moy baba menamad Dino aya awanid no uje sheyan jaigo shimadwagi kandinid. Minawago gay misa maginwins guy na kamagag bina shinguding. Minawangi aya ansag guy shigaganuni diwa diwade o misadang. Minawago gay ginon dago siwad gayabi madwagi kandiwad. Ni wini ganis. Gawin ni go wini is a zik is go sha. Bina shago bejig guy shinon dago sid. Dagana ayang guame ada on ke mama na ega jisago na gawin kita nishiwa na ji asinan bisa ma bejig gawin ogimino tawasin inuwi jayan meshko din guji ma gishi wabin dan gego wabin da anu jayan nashkena giwabin da nawana widi enda shi was kone seg mi ma gwaya kana bajke shi saga mang ekoga agni na taming gamaja Isama with the basic nundago. Gawin gini nga zazikis. Mino amag yan ganj way binidiwag. Binishago gay. Way we bewidi na gakia ga jawad. Gigo gwaji kanidiwad. Wina tamwi zaga ang. Misa ima jitchagawad. Ga bashko wawad no. O mama yuan. Misa ima giyashkwa yashinid. Bama dasha omindamoye. Ga pibindigay demo wigiwaming. Gawin ngo jiyo giwa masin ino o danasan. Meshkod misquimini eta guys you wabindang. Binishago ge na mai ia nabi guys you wabmad no. Jingishinid no uji shayan. Basic dashka kana wab me god. Minawago ge ogi kanunan. Nashke na nuko. Ge kenemana ni nawiyan. Ninsa wena Boujou. Miyo pebamad manes ge windamagu yeg. Gani zako kanigino bene ojid minagoyak. Wago shojid, we ojid. Oh, me go me you. So that's so I'll do a quick translation as best I can. So the birth of Boujou started a long time ago. I was always amazed at that, right? Because we learned Boujou named everything, but somebody birthed Boujou. So there were people here before him too, right? So it's this great linear effect of who was Boujou and when and how, right? But Boujou's mom was a young woman and she lived with her mom. And once upon a time, at the beginning of time, way back, this woman came to her daughter, who's a young woman at the time. And I always think about this. Did this woman have a premonition or was this a common teaching for young women at the time, right? But she came to her daughter, who was a young woman, and she said, look, I have this really bad feeling. I need to talk to you. And you really need to listen to what I'm about to tell you. Turn your cell phone off. That's what she said. She said, Miguel. She said, I have this really bad feeling. I need to warn you. If you're ever out and about and you need to go, don't ever face west, right? If you need to sit down, use a bathroom, don't ever face west. If you do this, I have this feeling that something bad is going to happen to you. Please listen to me. Take care of yourself. Take care of your body. Don't do that. So the young woman, she listened to her mom, right? For a long time, she listened to her mom until she didn't, right? Which is a way of things. They say one day she was out in the woods and she got kind of lost her way. Maybe it was overcast and nobody was around and she thought it was okay. And she sat down facing west to use a bathroom. And when she did this, they say she felt cool air where she was going bathroom, right? So she hopped up real quick. I pull up my pants, but I doubt she was wearing pants. I don't know. I pulled her skirt down, however it goes. And she ran home, even though she was lost. She found her way home. And she told her mom what had happened. She was terrified. She thought, oh my gosh, I did what my mom told me not to do, and now I'm scared. And her mom confirmed her fears, and she started crying. Says, you really did it. You messed up. Your body is messed up. Somebody came inside your body. There's something in your body, and it's not Anishinaabe. And I'm scared, right? Really comforting mom. But and she told her daughter, it's not Anishinaabe, whatever's in your body, and it won't be long till it gets here. And as time went on, that grandma, soon to be grandma, she'd hear these voices coming from her daughter's stomach, right? And the voices would be saying along the lines of, no, not you, me. I'm going to be the oldest. Other one would say, no, I'm going to be older than you, right? Get out of the way. And then there was one voice off to the side saying, hey, settle down. We don't want to hurt her mom, right? So this carried on for a while, and that old woman was always crying and worried about her daughter. And then eventually, as things got closer, you'd hear those voices getting louder. And finally, you heard them one day, and they were saying, no, me, I'm going to be the first. No, I'm going to be the oldest. And then the ever-present voice in the back saying, no, let's be doing it the right way. And then the other ones didn't like that. So eventually one of them said, hey, you see that over there? You see that light? That's how we're going to get out. Get out of my way. And they started running for it. And then they started pushing each other, and they started fighting and racing to get to this light, to be the first out and to be the oldest of the brothers. And they fought so hard, they just came exploding out of their mom. And they ended her life. And when that woman came back, she didn't see her daughter anywhere. She just saw blood all over the place. And then she looked down and she saw her grandchildren, more than one, right? And one of them looked up and he said, hey, Graham, you know who I am? I'm Boujou. And as Dennis Jones says, that's the partridge's butthole. So I love that line. But so it's not as funny as some of the other Boujou stories, unless you've got a really bad sense of humor. And I still have a lot to think about with it, right? But like I said, I want to do my best to tell it because that's what I was told to do. And one thing my uncle used to talk about a lot with this is he talk about who was fighting in there, right? So we all know Boujou, but who knows his siblings, right? So there's so much more that we have to talk about and explore following up that story. So who is the ever-present voice saying, let's be nice and let's not hurt our mom? And who are the ones saying, get out of my way, I'm going to be the oldest, right? So Boujou is a set of multiple births and got siblings out there. So cool thing to follow up on if you're interested and look into. And miigwech, I'll hand it back off to Wagosh. Miigwech, mio.
Well, miigwech. Boujou always grew up with his grandma. Now you know why. Koe nui tibado dan geabi gegu gaishigedao Boujou. Ga ishkwa nisado no jishiban. Nawaj de gekende meg. Boujou gimin wendam. Gajina naga de wendam gaishiged wah. Ingi nisag chi niboa jishibag. Minawa inka amwag chi niboa jishibag. Chi enigo ki anoki. Kabe gijik aja gi anoki. Got tajikangu nimiati wigamega gishkishwad bebakan mitagun gaji nasad chinibo jishiban nongom dash gaji ishkodeked budawedema a wazud Minawa gaji jagazang chinibua misan. Binishigo ga wabandang a kakanje. Minawa we weni gaji nanaga de wendang waj chiged on zam the sanagad. We weni the bini agwa gakina ongosa ji shibag. Mietago be beja gaji asad ima a kakanje. We weni go the jiba quaid. We weni sana waji asadima kakanjeng. Mietago is it daniwan? Ki inabinid masa a kakanjeng. Mishimaga jinanaga de wendang gesh chigade kanawabandang be dakidegen onosa ozidaniwan onosa ji shiban. Gosh wash kwa iji kawindwa mishipida the gichi wisinian. Imbaka de sagona gegagong kawanandam wah the onijishin wisinian gianendam. Imaji baba mendam dash awena Boujou wataya indayekos niwian we bajana itash kishpin nibayan namanji dogwaji we bakana bajuia de bidasimo se waji gimuded ni wisini wingi nendam me mindige ingiu buanag buanishag apaneji ji shibi gimudi wagingu buanag gianenda mishima gaji kanonad ayaan awiji begoda pane o diash mishima ji wendamo ndagashkena kida abajitun kishkinj bejik de enabian apane minawa gishpin bidasimo sewa dongo buanag amajwe benishin ni wigi kendan babamanisha wagwa waji buni aguyang miogaji wenda mawad mishima gaji anwebe da wena Boujou Chigin wenj mina wagaji zongi nebada wena Boujou ho gimen wendam abige dash kegu giji webad nashkena gipida simose wagango buanag niswe mina wagaji nazikage wad udiash ginabe mi magaji zegazid oh buanag Owi kimuda nawa wena Boujou wisini wengi enendam we bogia majwebanan wena bush koshkozin we egate bidasimo sewo go buanag we kimudi wag wena Boujou zongi nebad mi magaji anabid gawin dash gegu gianab gaji ogi wabandazin ongo buanag inagraso aguma mettegung Gawin inguji gegu odagi wabandazina wena Boujou shahai Gawin inguji nina wabamasi ngo sa buanag shibigi mudiwada pane gawin dashnongam shahai ginishkadazi ogi kanona minawa inyo o diashan Namanji dog wenji amajwebe niguyan Indayekos chianigo kingi anoki gawin mashi ngiji tasin minawa ninishkades amajwebenishin etago gishpin bimia yawa dongo buanag wikimudiwad mishimaga ni nebad minawa wena Boujou Abiding minawa kipe inabi wagango sa buanag hey nashkena ha tuwa Giekedoak Nashke Jishibag Ima Ayawak Patakidewan o Zidaniwan Kedama manani gakina Gegu dudawada o Wena Boujou Gianenda Mug Minawa Giangwamisi Wagaji Bidasimo Sewad Binish Kipi Bagi Minawa Hodiasha Wena Boujou Minawa gaji bi bagid wena bush we goshkozin angwamizin nashke buanagoma yawag Wayne Boujou guys, you gosh kozid chiwe we me ma guys you nabid, gegate me no wa in the gazogan go bonak. Mishima mittigung gawin, dagi ganawab me gosiwak. Wayne Boujou ki pa nabi gawin inguji buano ma yasin. Taya, me to go basic, ushkinj gedayan. Wenji gash kitusi wan de kendaman kanawaban man. Gego wika amajweben ishit upamajweben ishiken ntagashkena ne we unweb bani man kagichi wisin bunyashin gekido. Me maga jina bad. Chigi wenj gineba. Minawa ginishkadizi diash. Gawin, ogi amajwe benasin, mietigo gaji pa en abid, kanawaba mad no buan and bidasamo sened. Gawin dash gegu giekidusin, gawin gegu gi, ijichigesin, mi kea buanag, kipe nazika gewad, minawa gaji mamawad no buanan, bejik. Gaji amwawad, ono sa ji shiban, meno pogazi wag ji shibag, ki kedana wewag. Mi itago tuwad ozidani wanima kakanjeng minawa panima dash anima jawad. Chigi wenjgi ni bagwen. Wayne Boujou binishigo goshkozid. Ni na ni bayawed himbaka deso go na. Ingiji ta de gichi wisiniyan. Mishimaga jimamud ozid jishib netam. Mi itago zid hima giate. Ataya. Anindia yadao jishib, bebeje kai jiwi kubidud nosa. Ozidaniwan jishiban gawin dash inguji jishib giayasin. Oh, taya, gi enda nishkadisi awena Boujou. Mishimaga jiganonado diash minawa. What taya? Gawin gego gigiekito sin buana gi pinaza kagewag, gi kidana wewag kinegegu niwisini win. Ani sheje chigen gigi windawun, de windamauyen, gishpingegu waji webak, mishimaga a pichi nishkadendang nishkadise da wena bujuga tud. Yo osa odia shima ishkodeng, mishimaga ji chagazang, gika gikinumun gegu wika waji bizindanzi one yo o windamagayan. Miuga ji chigade binishkani gekendang. A pichi we sagendang gawena Boujou. How giekido jibi bagid. Minawaga jimaji batud. Ga pichi jagazagade go diash. Giani miskwiwi de masa. Emasa mitigunsing. Minawagi anji ayawan. Mishima weni jigekendamang. Yo osa miskwa beamish. Minawa gaiji babame batudi masa mitigo kag. Gaiji go gwe. Jigo gwe de jikango ishkodeo masa o diashing da ani ateg binishigo danganad nosa wigwa satigun mishima gaji anji ayawad gabigo ayamawad yo akakanje masa wanagek. Bineoji dani zipokani. So part 2 of Wayne Boujou and the Ducks. And you might be able to catch on to some of this, another kind of famous story, where Wayne Boujou now, after the killing of the ducks and great pride at the success of his clever kill, decides that he has to deal with all these ducks and cook them. And he had worked so hard to clear the powwow arena, to kill all these ducks. And now he was starving. And so he built a big fire and he thought, I'm not going to bother cleaning these ducks. I'm going to actually build a huge fire and I'm going to put them all in the coals of this fire and I'll let the coals cook the ducks and burn all their feathers off and they'll be just ready to eat. And so that's what he did. He made this huge fire. Once the coals, he had a nice bed of coals. He stuck all of the ducks in the coals. Only their feet were sticking out. And then he was thinking, wow, I worked so hard building this fire and working on all of this food. I need to take a little rest. And then the thought occurred to him, what if I'm taking my rest and someone comes to steal my ducks? I'm going to have to post somebody on lookout. And he didn't really know who to talk to until he thought, well, I'll have my hind end keep a lookout. And so he talks to his butt and he says, hey, butt, I need you to keep a lookout in case there's some Dakotas come around or someone else wants to mess with my food. You know, Dakotas, they're kind of notorious duck thieves, so you keep an eye out. And so he tells his hind end, he says, you use your one eye and you keep a good watch. And you wake me up if somebody comes around. And so he goes to take a little nap, you know. He's snoring and having a great time. And lo and behold, here come a few Dakotas. And they're sneaking through the woods, as they sometimes did. And they say, ha ha tua, Chippewas. And look, there's ducks there. Is that Wayne Boujou? I bet it is. Hey, let's get his ducks. And as they come a little closer, Wayne Boujou's hind end sees them with his one good eye, and he says, Wayne Boujou, get up, wake up, quick, the enemies are approaching. And Wayne Boujou wakes up, he's looking around, but those Dakotas had ducked behind trees and were hiding, and Wayne Boujou couldn't see them. And he said, where? I don't see any Dakotas. I don't see anybody at all. Why are you disrupting my good sleep after all the hard work I've done preparing a good meal for us? I'm going to go back to sleep. You just wake me up only if someone is messing with our ducks. So he goes back to sleep. And again, the Dakotas are coming. And again, Wayne Boujou's hind end sees them with his one good eye and says, Wayne Boujou, get up quick, which he does. And again, they hide. This time, Wayne Boujou was so mad, he's telling his hind end, he says, I bet you can't see a darn thing anyways. You only got one good eye to begin with. Why don't you just leave me alone and let me sleep? Buzz off, leave me alone, good night. He goes back to sleep. Well, now, Wayne Boujou's hind end was really offended by the way that he had been spoken to. And so he's looking out with his one eye, and he sees these Dakotas coming, and he thinks, I am not waking up Wayne Boujou. And he just watches, and here come the Dakotas. They pull out that first duck. It was cooked perfectly and eat it entirely. And then the others come up, and they keep going. They ate every single duck that Wayne Boujou had harvested and prepared. And then they took just the feet were left and stuck them back in the coals, and they took off, quite pleased with themselves. Well, a while later, Wayne Boujou wakes up from his nap, takes a big yawn, and he says, oh, I am starving. I'm so ready to eat. And then, of course, he pulls up the first set of feet, and it's just feet. And pretty soon he realizes what had happened. Now, Wayne Boujou is really upset with his hind end. He says, hind end, how come you didn't get me up? I told you to keep a lookout. I told you to wake me up. You don't listen to anything. He gets so mad, he puts his hind end into the fire, and he begins to burn it. And he says, I'm going to teach you a lesson for not listening to me. And then, of course, he realizes that his hind end is attached to him. Ow! And he starts to scream in pain. He takes off running. He was burned on his butt so bad that it started to bleed. And some of that blood went off onto the brush and little trees there. And they turned red, and they stay that way to this day. That's what we call the red osier or red willow. They're two different species, and they grow in both abundantly in our area. And as he's running through the woods trying to put out this fire, then he takes that charcoal and soot from the fire and he rubs it on the birch trees, and it gives him these black lines that we still have today. And so the partridge's butthole comes to a close again. Miigwech.
Oh, well, miigwech wagush. You know, there's some insights in that story too. Like, you ever notice babies, how they sleep? They sleep with their butts in the air, right? Well, that's the origin story right there, why they sleep with their butts in the air. And then also, medicine man told me this. You know, whenever you have problems with your blood, what you do is you take that red osier, that red willow, and you brew it into a medicine, and you drink it, and it's blood medicine, because it's Wayne Boujou's blood that created it, like that. So even though the stories are silly, then there's also teachings in there, right? All right, so we have another version of the same story that we told, but this one's a little bit longer and all of it is in color. And we're going to have our speakers read each sentence again, and we'll try and glean some more insight in these. So when I was teaching, I used to use pictures and words like this to teach language. That's why it's all written up, and that's how I taught. That's how we taught legends. Is how teaching vocabulary. When in it up,
Nina Tom. Mewaja izan o gaganunan o komisana au nana bush.
Very good. So, in my territory, izan is the storytelling word. Apparently, a long time ago, but then locally it's giwe. Mewaja giwe. So you can tell which dialect this is by the way that it's. So Nana Boujou, what he did was he was speaking to his grandmother. Again, he's a foster child, right? DB, skinny tum?
Mida Shayna do komisan. Nawajni ninataba giz. Ningaji kabatugae in dashawadoma awiag.
So here's one thing that we all do when we're kids. He was bragging about himself, and he was bragging to his grandmother. He said, I can run faster than anybody in this village. I can swim, well, I guess not in that order. Ninitaba giz, I can swim better than anybody in this community. And nawaj, ningiji kapito, I can run fast than anybody that's here. So he's pretty big on himself. So you can guess where the story is going to go, right? When somebody brags about himself. All right.
Nibawago gegu gi ije mikindize.
He really liked to tease. There's that motif again of teasing. He really loved to tease. Ibis?
Wabama dawia wewe bana binid. Gajagugid anamaji man. Ogi wawi ko webinan. Owewe bana banane.
Hey, good. So whenever he saw somebody fishing, and he would dive underneath the canoe, and he would pull on the line, and he would yank on it, make it look like he caught a fish. I did that to my brother when I was out fishing. You know, I caught his hook on my fishing rod, and I started yanking on it. All of a sudden, he set his hook, and he thought he got himself a fish. And I thought about the story here when I did that. So, how making this in the bush gainin dish?
Kaye wabuzu nagawen gan nagwaganan ogi pinabi giweba anan. Nibio gegu gi ije mikindize.
So whenever he saw a rabbit snare, he would upset the rabbit snare also. So everything he did to tease his fellow Anishinaabe.
Abeding izan ishkwa na wakwenig. Jige we wajagame. Minwa ogi wabama. Miskomina ima nabi kang.
Abeding. So once he was walking, it was afternoon, early afternoon. He was walking by the shoreline, and he saw miskomina, red berries there in the water. So when you study language, there's a glottal stop obviative there. It's the ogewaba ma. There's a little kick there at the end. Local dialect puts a letter N on there. And weyaja game, there's the eternal shoreline walker again. That word talks about Wayne Boujou and the way that he did. So he saw some red berries in the water.
Gaji niminawawe ya daga gazid. We tebe benad miskomina.
Great. So when I used to teach language and anybody that was having trouble with language, I would do right from the back. Like, let's take this word, for example. I'd go like this. I'd go, Zid, Gazid, the Gazid, Ya the Gazid, We Ya the Gazid, Na We Ya the Gazid, Minna We Ya the Gazid, Nimina We Ya the Gazid. And then students, they say, wow, that's so much easier, building the word from the back. So it's a little language exercise. Remember, I use all this to teach language. So as he waded out into the water, he went to go grab the berries that were in the water.
Ai, mi etagona nebe ga kwabinang.
Aye, there's a good expression right there, huh? Oops, all he got was a handful of water. That's all he got. Uh-huh. Oh.
Taki gamabu winge gikaji zide yabawa.
So let me try this on you, Hope. Let me
Oh,
okay.
yeah, we don't see that,
Let me try it. Way,
Way.
ba way,
Way.
ya ba way,
Ya ba way.
hey ya ba way,
De ya ba way.
zide ya ba way,
Zide ya ba way.
zide ya ba way,
Zide ya ba way.
zide ya ba way,
Zide ya ba way.
zide ya ba way.
Zide ya ba way.
Give her a hand, yay! See, it really works, doesn't it? Okay, good. And so while he was walking around in the cool water, his feet got cold. Nice, beautiful, long word there for cold feet. All right.
Gaje onabe dema jigwe.
So he looked near the shoreline again. So G-Gale. G-Gale.
Igeu.
Very good. He looked close to the shoreline. All right, next one.
Winge kaje agadendam gaye.
He got himself cold and he was kind of a gadandum. Not sure what that word means. Wagish? He was embarrassed. A gadandum. Uh-huh. I'm embarrassed not to know that word.
Wa minawa awabama miskomana emanibi kang.
So as he's there sitting, he sees the berries again in the water.
Sha mazanate bigish shininug enang guada enendam.
How come you get all the hard words? Mazanate bi
Mazanate bi.
geshinninog. So they were reflecting. And then there's a good expression. Inagwana. That's a good expression right there. So like what Tony was saying, yataya. So that's what he thought to himself.
Gaje wiko bedud wadekwan.
So he pulled down the branch. Wadikwan.
Minawaga ijionabed o damwa miskomena eji bape idizod.
Very good. Kaji unabid. Yeah. Unabid would be looking. Unabid. So he sat back down to eat the berries. There's a good teaching right there. He laughed at himself. If you ever make a mistake, laugh at yourself. That's why I'm always laughing. Making lots of mistakes.
Na gegu onundan ishbeming.
You know what? How about if I have you guys translate your own words?
Okay, so then he heard something up in the sky.
Very good.
Kishiwewag weg. He waited on gisewag. So going by up in the sky, up high, he heard those snow geese. They're going north. They're on their way north.
Very good. And they were really loud, eh? Gijiwewag. So whenever I hear geese in the distance, Gijiwewag, I often think of this story, you know, and the stories that are associated with it. Uh-huh.
Mi oma wajibu niwad zagaigening. So there in the lake is where they wanted to land.
Oh, wow. You know, I think I'm just going to sit down. Let him take over.
Oh, wow. We engaged a kingdom. Oh, man, he was really happy.
Yeah, go back one. There we go. That word is hiding on you.
Weibgi kazo. So very quickly, Bourgeois went and he hid.
Get that? That word was hiding on you?
Get Buniwag Omazaga Iganing. So for sure, they did land right there at the lake, in the lake.
Oh, you see that picture of wearing a Bourgeois? Bimozabe? There's a Tonto and the Lone Ranger. Remember that? Kimosabe? That's the action of Kimosabe right there. Bimozabe. That's where he got his name from.
Midash o nendang gwaja chiged. Anad. So then he was just thinking about what he wanted to do and how he was going to get those wait.
Huh? He wanted to catch them all.
Nibuwa Owika Gwe Nesa. We ani vida muad ukomasan. Oh, he wants to get a lot of them to kill him, and then he's going to bring him to his grandma.
That's right. Wants to please his grandmother.
Wewi bodujatun wanagake shinu dagen wa tokobichigagid. So very quickly he went and was making a wanagake shinu dagen. So bark
Bark string, bark rope.
Bark rope. And he
One
was,
that's around his chest there.
oh yeah. And then he was gonna use that to tie.
Take it to tie, to use to tie with. Take it.
Imujga buckle bead. So secretly he was gathering that together to get ready.
Yeah, to enter the water. Bakubid. Uh-huh.
Gaji gugid gimuje enadige dema Asia agomawad wait. So when Bourgeois, he dove secretly into the water and going to where the ducks, they were all gathered in the water, just sitting on top of the water there in a circle or together.
Take it. Agamoan. Yep.
Aiji tako bida muad ozidani. So the waywag are the snow geese, but then he goes and he ties them together, their feet.
Very good.
Ozidani.
Very good.
Na mi ikiji tad gega go akwan namwa bawe. So just as he was finishing to tying their feet together, he was just about to run out of breath.
Very good.
We weave gaiji mushkamud. So it's hurrying up to finish up.
Yeah, Mosh Kamud to right there. Mosh Kamud.
It is breath.
Yeah.
Winge igige ekonamo.
Mi dash this I ga agumo we agumod we ogi nundawan nana Boujou gitchi ikwana monid. So right in the middle of where they were floating on the water, those snow geese, then they heard him with Nana Boujou. He took a big breath in.
Okay, good.
Mi dash gaje bazigwa od. Minua gakine eje bazigwa owad. So then they came up, they flew up, all of them, they flew up.
Okay, good. Bazikwa, they flew up. Okay, good.
Nana Boujou o wiko binigug bimisened wewe. So he was hanging on, he was pulling, and they pulled him up, bimisened, and he was being pulled up by the snow geese.
Oh, wow. Okay, good.
Mi dashawe ga onje jibwa bi gamoad. Ishbiming, I bimisewa dewe, ni soa ya I ga yad. So Ngugugwe ane kanutan. So I think that is why that they fly like
Yeah, Jibwa Bi Gamawad.
jibwa bi gamoad.
A long string.
Oh,
That's why they fly string-like. That's a really cool word, Jibwa Bi Gamawad. That's why they fly along like a string. Yeah.
and then in the sky flying, the one who's leading in the front, in the middle.
They get the one that's leading in the front. Again.
Midashiwe ga onji jibwa bi gamawad, ishpamingi bimisewad awe, nisawe ai ga ayad, miwan in you, inwe o mishomisiwan. So that's how they fly in a line like that in the sky. That's how they fly with the one in the middle is the one, me, one in you. Just like the grandfather snow goose is the one.
Very good. So the one in the lead is the grandfather. That's the elder one. Okay, again.
Mi awe ge kenda ngoyak e jawad. So that's how they know the right way that they're flying.
Right. It's the grandfather is the one that's showing them the way. He's the one that's doing the leading. Yeah. Right. Maweha o Nana Boujou.
Nana bush o dana big bagi gama jibun and need.
So Nanabush was trying to yell at him, right? That's what he was trying to do. And he's trying to get them to land. Uni is to land. So he was yelling at them to land. That's what he was doing. What's that? To no avail. Okay, good. Yeah.
Binishigo wasa ishpaming ane sewag. So, as he's yelling at them, trying to get them to land, well, he was doing that all the way until they were really far into the sky.
Okay, good.
Inabed nisai I owabama mitigu. Oh boy, he sees right in the middle where he sees that they're in the woods.
Yep. As he saw below, he saw the trees. Yeah. So by now he's way up in the sky, right? So he's got an eye's view of the world underneath him. All he sees is trees. Okay? So what he's telling us here is in the future, we're going to be flying. So whenever you are in an airplane, that's what he's describing right here. He was predicting that happening to Anishinaabe, that we're going to eventually be able to fly. Yeah?
Mida she nendang. Ga mawin mina wawika and da wabandazi nain Diane in naindam. So then he's thinking, oh man, I'm probably never going to see my home again, is what he's thinking while he's way up there.
You guys ever think that when you're on a plane? And I'm never going to see my family again.
Mi dashima mushki gong ani ishisewad weweg nana Boujou ogi pugiji webanan shinu tagen.
Very good.
So then there in the mud, that's where he came to be with the snow from the snow geese. Nana Boujou ogi puggy webanan. So then that's when he fell down and was in that situation.
Yeah, so he waited till he had a soft place to land, right? Which was the mud or mushkigong. And that's when he let go of the string. And that's where he landed. By the way, this is also the origin of mud bathing, as Wayne Boujou did it.
Mashkigong. So then he fell there into the mud.
Again.
Gawin we sagishizi ema etago mago jish giwe we sing.
Magosh, what's that word there mean? Mago jish kiwe shin. Or destined. There in mago jish kiwe shing. Got himself all muddy, right? He didn't hurt himself, he just got himself all muddy. Yeah? Again.
Nena Bourgeois gi nama dabe ma mashkigong. Ogana bama an animase nidnika. Iwadi nakea I jawanong. So Nena Bourgeois, he just sat there in the mud and he watched those snow geese as they flew, as they were flying away towards the south.
Again. They got away, right?
Midashiwe ga onji eding ji nusawa bema minindwa jawanong gi ijawad onji edim ie. So as he's watching them go away, ji nusawa, he could see them go into the south, and that's where they were heading.
And here we have a teaching, onji edim. And onji edim is prohibited. Even they're prohibited from doing that. So the next question is going to ask us that. Okay? So gego no sawaba ma ken we gi jawa jawanong. Do not stare at the geese as they fly south. Oh, gotta ask yourself, why not? Oh, here's the next question. Okay? So you cannot wenji onji ting. No sawaba mindoa. Jawanong is just say what? Do you know why you should not look at geese as they fly south? So you can't sit there and stare at them. It's like you too are desiring to go south. Well, what's wrong with that? That is where our ancestors have gone, our grandfathers and our grandmothers. And so that's why it's prohibited from watching geese. Now, I've heard different versions of this teaching. I also heard that not to stare at geese as they fly away because they're going to take your sight with you. I heard that also. But then I also heard that that it's the direction that people lay down when you lay them in the grave. Some communities lay the deceased north and south. Others do east and west, like that. So those are some of the teachings. So miigwech, miyo, and the sipukanig.
Never underestimate the difficulty of being asked to translate on the fly. Wah, dagamino ba pasin in jitoa dan. Oh, it is sweating. Whew, me wait. Aho. Yeah, be beige gonna budge in the name of go. The G kamana the zukan koidash. Gawin win o ginaway magana na na Boujou nga hada zukan asin. Minjamendam gi kuzain suyang gi kikino maguyang. We are the zuking. Nuj nibwa dajamawa gawin ito away na Boujou bakan manidu gay wino dajamawa binashago gay wino awasiag. Kaya it's nibo awasiag jaigo ngo ni jaigo gi dajamawa nibo no benesiwan benesia benesh waya hay oh gay nin and dani zaig is benesia ga gawin jijan agos wad migo gay nin waji dajamag basic beneshi wen jijan agos id. Waishkad gi maji gikno magaya ningi danano ki widi ni gane bago ni gije gikno madi wigme gong basic dash widi ngi wida no kima ni tawis na bekwa panidash nuj na bekwa ngi gikno mag abring dash ngi ipanazaka gi kagwajimin kainen na wenji kedoyang yo ma basic gikno en wi kedo gainen kainen sin wenji kedoyang yo miyama naish kyo ma jayang do bagagway dwayang wen in nistarotama gego beige kedoin inguring dashingi kagwajimig aman drainji kedoyang andeg we kana ginunda wenji shana cause andeg andeg gawin ko nin and kainen zin gawin and kainamas na andeg wenji shana cause andeg me ma naish ki ma jayang go bagagwajum gagwajum angito beba kana ya gwenji shana cause andeg andeg gawin dash gego and ginakoy tago sinan Miyamagi bunain da mangin range. Panama dash, inguje, ningo doso Geese sogak inguje, kaya yawade, madewa ganing, Beijing min the moy dash, and gipanazakag. Ajaway Geese gukwain and gipanazakag dash, going and giganuni the seaman etangi, ya inguje mitagong, mino and gipanazakag, gagwajaman. Hey, Gim! Kanamana ande going jish na kazor, why? Kanamasin, dugga, wind the mawa shin. Miyamagaji, wind the mawid. So when I started my teaching career about 15 years ago, I was at Nigane over at Bug School. And I worked with my buddy Adrian Liberty na Bekwa. He's a fantastic teacher, man. He really brought me along nicely, and he'd always challenge me. He said, "Hey, why do you think we say this word? What's the origin of that word?" And we'd both go out and we'd ask some elders and we'd try to look in the dictionary. Why do we say it like that? Why do we say it like this? Let's break it down. And it really helped me understand part of the construction of some of our language. It was a cool challenge. But one day he came and he's like, "Hey, Gim, why do you think Ondeg's called Ondeg?" And I was like, "I don't know, man. That's a great question." So we both went out and we started asking elders, "Why is Ondeg named Ondeg? Why is Ondeg named Ondeg?" And we couldn't find the answer. And we got stumped, right? And so it was the first time we'd been stumped, and it kind of ended the game. We just stopped trying because we couldn't find the answer and we got busy, whatever. But anyway, down the road, must have been like 6 months later, I was at lodges down in St. Croix, Wisconsin, and this fantastic lady down there, one of our boss ladies, Dora Almond, she just walked up to me at random and she said, "Hey, Gim, you know why Ondeg's named Ondeg?" And I was like, "Shut up, but don't stop talking. Why is Ondeg named Ondeg?" I was so excited, right? It was just magically, she decided to part why Ondeg's named Ondeg. So that's a story I'm going to try to tell. And I was just mentioning too before that, I remember being a kid and hearing about wintertime stories. And Wayne Boujou is the man. Don't be mistaken. We love Wayne Boujou and we appreciate him and his stories. But there's a lot of other great wintertime stories that we have that talk about other spirits and about animals. And Pebama Benes and Wagush have already talked quite a lot about some animals and why they are the way they are and why they look the way they look and sound the way they sound. And so this one is about Ondeg. Wow, Windamunugug. Aho, mioga, Windamoa Mindamoy Ashaway Gijagukwe. Yoshki a kiwang. Gay Gatesa, Giani Gisanane. Minawago gay, Nujage go Gegu Gimada Kamagadun, Squayanga na Kamagasanuk. Giani Gashka de Noon and no, Made Wabun. Nagoge gihani ishpa gunaga. Gawin da shwika gina kamagasunun. Ga Peter ishpa gunaga giu. Mino anibo anu zayage kigen. Gi ane nimboma gadun. Anishna o de penamondo dawawa nino Geese soon. The bimadi zima gakin. Gawin da shogi. Ogi wabinan zinawan gawin jishpa gunagag mi magani nimboma gakin. Mino agoge gani nimboma gakin inu zayage kigen. Misa go beja gon guy na kamagiziwadin go. Be madisijig be bakan penamono damuawa penamono damuawa penamono damuad ni zayage kigen. Oasia gege gani gawanandamug ani ishkwa yashwad ge winoa. Misago ga anake na kamagiziang in shana bewiyang. Anishna kinagegu gida penamono damin we shabuyang. Buch gidaya wana na gingo oasiag. Yang binishago gay no zayage kigen. Gina kamagako o giani baba maindamo ga kinawia. Bejig da shawia giaya bene shiwid. Nashkena giwain da mi kawadizia o beneshi. Anuj gia nanzo kina inendaman gia nanzo da wia mi nanzo de ma migwining o beja gawasi. Mina wago ge gi nagamon na wajgi min wewe pichta shakina benation. Windash gi inendam. Gegu ingi pinundan. Ingi nundan gishpin a wia niogon. Kwando yashid we gashkad. The nazakawad no money doing. Meaning in disoyan gauge chagayan. No we buzigo gaining we maji sayan gagway nazakawaga o money do the windamawag in a kamagizi young. Anishnagi ogi mawi beneshi winga o beneshi. Me maga jichigay dash I buzigo yani a kwando yashi neo go na magi jichigay. Binishago gay ani nazakagid. Mino agoge gi wabindang ino. Gi wabindamwad no money do gi waman e misa magi ji bin de gay say mino agoge gi kanunad no money dun. Ogi windamwad a kinagego in a kamaga kodi a king. Guys in a bomaga kinino zayag kigin binishago gay we know I know wasian. Anishanabe gay we know ani gawanandam enid. Gay dasha o money do gina tagun. Misa ma Gegu ga uji tud we mean ad no benation. Minawago ogi windamuan. Nashke ingi pinundan in a kamagizi giwi wido kunanim. Kawaida shmio owa meaninan. Gay mina da o anishanabe. Misama ido ga o manido. Ga mina no benation waswagen. Minawago ge gi jagase gi waswagen. Ogi windamuan da shino benation. Nashke gida mina o nishanabe o mi o ishkude. Mina gida gikro mawa ge anabaje tud do wazod nago ge de jiba kwadang o wisine when mi uge we do kago don zaman gisanag. Nina go win ne we gana we na magangi o we siag. Ne we gikno mawa ganin ge and we biwa don zaman gisanag. We know a dash gi jaya ag beneshi we wad. Ne we gikno mawa jawan on na gakea de ne sewa don zaman gisanag. Mina wago beja go ningu mitugug ne we gikno mawag de bina kwiwad gay we know we shab we wad on zamani gisanag. Miyama o money duido gashi gikno wad no beneshange o winda wad no anishanaben. Miyama gani ma jaa no beneshian we aje giwen. Misama o beneshi gege we weni. Anabaje tudo kunj gashi agwanendang yo waswagan. We weni je dakunang yo. Misama jimaji o se dao. Beneshi anini sanda we se dash. Ni ogo ni ogi. Iwe we bisi dash. Anishna de jagis. Misama o kunjing agwanendang yo. Gaji ni sanda we ashi dao. Beneshi. Mino yo ogi jichigade. Misu ishkode. Gani o boise gama. Ushte guaning. Misa magashi jagasondo gashi jagasimendo jagasimendo anyo omigwanan ani makade was in it. Misa go bejigwan gana kamagiz de ma opikwanang oningunang misa way ama we awang gashi jagaswinda obeneshi. Minawago game. Misama gipi buni doma a king. Guys, she naza kwad no and shanabe and mino nagadang yo. Minawago game. Gawing ginisa dawa waya. Gawing ginisa dawa na wasim bakan is in August in Makadewis. Minawago game. Gi dawane we kanuna no and shanabe and windamwad. Gagi kanomago no money doing. On Zandash, guys, in Nisan the wayside, guys, Gondang, you, Ishpore, Bangi, Dagisagade, gay. Itawan and Dash the Ganuna no, and Shanabin, Gawing Gayabi, Gimino, Tagos a scene, my squad, Gikagwega, Gikado, Reta Gayenway. Ka! Mio Dash. Onji Inway da Obenashi. Nago gay. Ingi windamaga omin da moye, mino angi wabend egg me ma ido gape onje windamaw and inguji guys mekwa no miguanan. Ingi wabend egg nashke na gishpin ombena da o miguan ande go miguan in mino ago ge gwekishimad misa we as you wabama de nanzo gawin makade was a scene anuj nanzo o miguan kina nandegine o nagoya misa ma mekaga degine ma ande go o miguaning. Minawago game. Ingi wa windamag ande gwenji ishin a kazo nashke and misama inabaja tuing wishi dashimagawia we anjinago zid game ago ge on dandang. Minawago ge deg. Misa ishi dashin jaga degin in a non degin. Minawago ge naishan abaja tuing we kido in on deg. Misama ga piji ishin a kanin da o dino beneshi. You she doesn't maga on dig me great. So I'm not as funny as Paybami Benes and Wagosh. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna rub my butt in a fire. But it's my favorite story. I love this one. So like I said, Adrian had challenged me to find this word and he looked too and we couldn't find it and we gave up until this old lady just randomly said, hey, Gim, you know why Ondeg's named Ondeg? And oh my God, no, please tell me. And I just love the story so much. I cherish it. It's one of my favorites. I also had a bad interaction with some Crow people out in Montana, so that's part of it too. But anyway, so as the story goes, hey, Niji, you want to get up here? Yeah, come on up, Niji. How about oh, me great, man. Hold a big round of applause for my Niji Nate. He wants to come and get involved. Another microphone right there.
I give props to those women that were up here translating on the fly like that.
Terrifying.
I want to try that one day. So I see my Niji here, my Jiwam right here, and I like his story. I too hear words that I wonder what they mean, like a Wasasi. You know, that's my clan, but what does that mean? You know, there's stories between names, right? So we had an elder this morning too, Franny Miller. She said a kundamu, that's that lily pad root. But she said, I wonder why they call it that, because the old days, they said that the hunters, when you're hunting something, you're hiding and you're waiting for the kill. She said, that's what a kundamu means to us. But this lily pad root, what is that? So we do this all the time with words. And it's fun because you just, there's legends and stories in there, right? So I got most of your story, but there is some parts I missed.
I made some of it up. They're just
Okay.
they're not real words. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I didn't really catch too much about it was a birch bark bull, right? There's this bird. First, there's this bird. Beautiful bird. Beautiful. Right? Why does he really?
All the colors of the rainbow. Yeah.
Colors and everything. And then you went into, I don't know, then he had some birch bark. I didn't know where the fire was, where he was getting burned at.
Yeah.
So
let me get you up to that point.
Okay.
How's that? Okay.
All right, cool.
So she was telling me, she said, a long time ago, way at the beginning of time, something new had happened and it started getting cold. And not that it hadn't been cold before, but the snow had never gotten so high and the lakes had never frozen over like this, and things started to change. So she said the snow was so high that the plants started to die because they depend on the sun and they couldn't see the sun and they started to die off. And when the plants started to die, then the animals started to die because the animals depend on the plants for survival. And then when the plants and animals were dying, the most pitiful of us, Anishinaabe, we started to die because we depend on everything for survival. And things were getting bad. So this bird, right? All the colors of the rainbow, most beautiful voice. They said he was the king of the birds. He said, you know what? I heard that the Creator's Lodge is a 4-day flight straight up. I'm gonna do my best to go see him and tell him what's going on. So he flew up 4 days and he got there.
Yeah.
And not quite birch bark, but a torch. So he told the Creator what was happening.
So yeah, well, he was doing that. First, he got burned on his hair. Dog is right. He burned his hair. Then he burned his back. Then I didn't really understand what he was doing, but he burned his throat. Everything started changing. And then so I don't want to jump to the end, but I really like the end.
Okay, well, we'll get you to the end.
All right,
Ready?
we'll get there.
All right. So you're right. So the Creator gave the bird a torch and he said, look, this is called fire.
Yeah.
And I want you to bring this to Indians and teach them how to use it. Tell them to use it to stay warm and to cook their food. And he said, I'll take care of everybody else. I'll teach the animals to sleep. I'll teach the birds to fly south. I'll teach the trees to lose their leaves, and we'll get this all straightened out. You take this torch, go teach Indians how to use it. So then he grabbed it in his beak and he started flying downward. And I used to use a lighter to show this, but then I'd burn my thumb really bad. So, it's, when you go down, the flame goes up. I stopped, the microphone worked.
All right, cool. So I love the end too. He says that. So now if you hold that crow's feather, and the raven's feather is kind of like that too, in a sense. You'll see you hold it up to the light and you'll see the rainbow. You'll see the old colors of that bird. It's really beautiful.
It's gorgeous. Yeah. And that's what that woman said to me. So she said, when you think about the name Ondag, there's 2 words incorporated into it.
Oh, Anji.
Yeah, right? Because our J and D are interchangeable. So we're doing this in our work group today. We're looking at word parts, right? So if you look at ond, it means to change. And the dag, she said, came from an ondag.
Oh,
so
color changing colors. Woo! That translated on the fly. Wow. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite stories. Miigwech for listening. Miigwech for helping out, Niji. And Miigwech.
Miigwech, everybody. You've been great. We're going to wrap it up. We've been at it a couple hours. We could do this for days and days. And in fact, a lot of times that's exactly what we did. So we're really excited and heartened with the wonderful response. We will look for ways to do more of this more often. We will also look for ways to connect with everybody else in Zoom land and cyberspace and to create more opportunities for everybody. This is your cultural patrimony, and I'm really glad that you're here leaning into it. If you are part of the student group, Mankato State, Bemidji State, and so forth, stick around because we're supposed to do a group picture yet tonight. Chimigwech.